Today on Sports Central, we're going to be going over one of the bigger SEC matchups heading into this week number 5 of the 2020 college football season. That's going to be between South Carolina and Florida. Both of these teams are looking to be decent teams in the SEC next season, especially Florida, which is looking to be a national contender right now. So it's a very important game for both these teams. Looking forward to the future of the season for both these teams as well. South Carolina, one end, is 0-1. They lost to Tennessee last week in a close game, so it was more of a promising loss, to be honest with you. It was not a bad loss at all for them. Meanwhile, for Florida on the other end, they got a win to Ole Miss last week, but they did allow 35 points, which is a little bit concerning, but still a win's a win. But in this matchup, we're going to be going over a full preview and prediction, starting out with your team trends. Last week, South Carolina lost to Tennessee 27-31, so it was a close game. South Carolina did lead for a good majority of that one, but they did end up taking a loss by 4 in the end. Florida did beat off Ole Miss 51-35, so once again, they did win pretty comfortably by 16, but still, I mean, allowing 35 points to a team like Ole Miss does concern me just a little bit, especially for a team like Florida. I mean, their defense is going to have to play better this week if they're going to get a win against South Carolina, because I'd say South Carolina is a considerably better team than Ole Miss in the end. But as far as your winning streaks go, South Carolina is 0-1, so obviously they've got a one-game losing streak. Then for Florida, they're 1-0, so they've got a one-game winning streak. This game's going to be on Saturday, October 3rd, 3:30 p.m. Eastern in Gainesville, Florida. So Florida will be a home team in this matchup. It's going to be in the Swamp. Spread currently says Florida by 18.5. ESPN FPI also has Florida 89%. Meanwhile, the Vegas prediction has Florida by 6, 28-22. So all three of our sources here, I've got Florida pretty heavily in this one. And obviously, this is still being recorded pretty early on in the week. So you could expect that spread to switch up a little bit as the week goes on, but nonetheless, bottom line here is that all three of our sources are saying Florida by a decent amount. As far as your stat comparison goes, these are your previous game stats. So last week, Colin Hill for South Carolina was 25 for 39, 290 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. So he had a decent day. His completion rate was not all that great, and he also threw an interception, but he did manage to put up nearly 300 yards, which really is not terrible. They also have Kevin Harris at running back, 13 attempts, 55 yards and a touchdown. Shee Smith at receiver, 10 receptions for 140 yards and a touchdown. Same thing with Xavier Legette, 4 receptions for 61 yards. Then Nick Muse had 4 receptions for 50 yards for South Carolina. As far as it goes for Florida, Kyle Trask had a brilliant game, just a great game against Ole Miss, 30 for 42, 416 yards. He put up over 400 yards in his first game as starting quarterback for the season, along with 6 touchdowns. That is incredible, having 6 touchdowns in a game, especially considering it was Kyle Trask's first game of the season. Once again, I was talking about him all off season and talking about how good of a quarterback that I think he is and how underrated of a quarterback that I think he is, which, I mean, that just proves my point there. I mean, 416 yards and 6 touchdowns. Really some great stats there out of Kyle Trask. And as far as running back core goes, you got Kadarius Toney, 4 attempts for 55, and Dameon Pierce, 9 attempts for 54 yards. Their top receiver last week was Kyle Pitts, who's actually a tight end, but he had an incredible performance as well. 8 receptions for 170 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then Trevon Grimes, 3 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown as well. So, yeah, considering Florida put up over 50 points last week, that's certainly a team to watch out for. And that offense out of Florida as well is looking really good, especially in the early parts of this season so far. Some key points, once again, Florida's offense, they just look great right now. Kyle Trask, once again, he put up a great performance against Ole Miss. Watch out for him this week. But South Carolina nearly beat off Tennessee once again. I mean, that game went back and forth quite a bit. It was just a tough loss for South Carolina in the end. But yeah, Florida's defense, they're going to have to play better. I mean, if Florida's going to win this game and if they're going to win this matchup, yeah, you got to play better defense. And especially looking at the future when you have to play teams like Georgia and tough teams like that, I mean, yeah, you're going to have a good defense against both of those teams. So this is going to be a game where Florida really needs to turn that around. But yeah, South Carolina, they can't make many offensive mistakes here. I mean, Florida, I mean, their defense doesn't look as good right now. But, I mean, yeah, South Carolina, they're going to have to also find a way how to stop Kyle Trask. I mean, you can't let him be passing 400 yards on you and expect to win. Like, that's just not going to happen. So, yeah, you've got to play some really good defense, especially for South Carolina in this matchup, because Florida, it looks like they're going to have one of the big-time offenses of this college football season. So, you got to play really well if you're South Carolina on defense. You cannot give up. You cannot give up big plays. You got to force a lot of turnovers as well if you're going to get a win against a great Florida team here. which I don't think that happens in the end. I do think that we do see somewhat of a close game. I do think at halftime we've got a 21-10 game. Florida is going to lead, but in the final it's going to be 45-31, and that may be a closer score than you may think that I was going to go, but I think South Carolina does kind of storm back in the second half. I think that South Carolina does put up 21 points or 3 touchdowns in the second half, but in the end Florida does get a good win by at least 14 points, 45-31. So it's going to be a good win. But yeah, Florida's definitely got to get their defense figured out if they're going to beat off some pretty big teams this season. But once again, 45-31, all around a good win coming up here for Florida. And their defense is going to play better this week. But I mean, yeah, still South Carolina is a team that they should be only allowing at least 10 points to. I mean, yeah, 10 to 20 points is where I'm sure Florida wants to keep South Carolina. But I think in the end, 45-31 is going to be your final score. Florida does get a big win in the end. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup. If you enjoyed this preview, slap a like on it. Subscribe as well. It really helps out the channel, and I really appreciate that. But as always, once again, let me know your score predictions in the comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this game. Be sure to stay tuned for more content as well from All Sports Central, and I will see you all later.